So can you paint us a picture of what it's like outside at the moment as you went to the studio?
Well, thanks for having me on the show again, Pete. It's very cold down here. It's very bleak. And there's no one on the roads again because Daniel Andrews has shut Melbourne down because of his own incompetence. Unlike March, where we were fighting a global pandemic and the federal government closed our international borders and Daniel Andrews was implementing the rules of the National Cabinet, as was every other state. In this instance, we're the only state in the country that's been put back under lockdown because Daniel Andrews completely failed to manage hotel quarantine. He got bouncers in to do the job that in every other state their Premier got the ADF and the police to do. And as a consequence, the virus got out of control down here. And now we're in a situation where businesses have been closed, the place has been turned into a ghost town, and frankly, so many Victorians are going to lose their job. Well, Daniel Andrews should also lose his.
Does that change the problem, though, if he loses him? And Tim Wilson, I put that question to him on the show a little bit earlier, and he said you've still got the problem of the government rather than the Premier.
Well, I think that there's got to be some accountability in the complete and utter stuff-ups that have gone on here in Victoria. Someone has to take responsibility for this monumental failure of public administration. And the fact that the Police Minister, the Health Minister, the Jobs Minister, all were responsible for the hotel quarantine disaster, have kept their job, and Daniel Andrews has kept his, whilst thousands of Victorians are going to lose theirs in the hospitality sector in particular, is a complete and utter disgrace. We need some accountability. We can't wait for this judicial inquiry or this faux inquiry, which is a political device essentially to protect Andrews. We need action now. We need someone to take accountability and responsibility for the disaster that has befallen Victoria.
Well,
this is 25% of the nation's economy, and we've been put in the freezer.
Well, I mean, again, Tim Wilson on the show a little bit earlier, he kind of alleged that it's a union thing, that Daniel Andrews is beholden to the unions, which is why he got the private security firms in instead of the ADF. Is that something that you would agree with?
Well, I wrote that in an op-ed yesterday for The Australian. The Jobs Minister, Martin Bakula, who for some bizarre reason was given the coordination role for hotel quarantine, is a long-term member and former union organiser for the NUW, the National Union of Workers. Now, the NUW recently merged with United Voice. United Voice are the union that represents all the security guards. So it is somewhat ironic that the Jobs Minister, that for some reason was given control of hotel quarantine, gives it to private security guards that are represented by what is now his union. So there's a certain level of irony there. There's also some explaining that the Jobs Minister needs to do because his role in this is still unexplained and it's also a complete and utter stuff-up.
OK, well, the numbers were in a dangerous trajectory, those who are infected, that is, and so a lot of people do support the lockdown. Do you support the lockdown?
Well, I do, in the sense that we need to get this virus under control. Now, we are where we are. I hate to see it, and it's only been caused because of the negligence and the incompetence of the Andrews Labor government. But we have to stop the virus. So we all have to do what we need to do to stop the virus, to essentially cover up for Daniel Andrews' debacle, and then try and get back to normal as quick as possible. But I would implore Victorians not to forget that the only state that has a lockdown again is Victoria, and it's only happened because of the complete and utter incompetence of the Andrews Labor government.
OK. You were very vocal in your support of businesses returning after the last lockdown. What's your position on that now?
Well, I am sympathetic to the view that none of these breakouts have occurred in cafes, restaurants or bars. But I will take the health advice. I will listen to the Chief Health Officer who says that we need to do this. But, you know, let's monitor the situation in coming weeks. Let's understand that if the caseload begins to drop, let's not lock ourselves into 6 weeks of lockdown. Let's be sensible about this, unlike last time. But I say again, this has not been caused because there was some outbreak in the community that we didn't pick up. This has been caused because, firstly, Daniel Andrews didn't fine anyone that protested some weeks ago for the Black Lives Matter protest, and that sent entirely the wrong message to the community that this virus was under control. And then secondly, we've had this mass outbreak from hotel quarantine. It's been caused by the Labor Party.
So if it were your decision at the moment, you would support the shutdown of businesses at the moment, but you wouldn't put a time frame on when they should resume again, when they should resume business again?
Absolutely. We must get back to business as quickly as humanly possible.
There is another report this morning, Tim. It's on The Australian, and it talks about how the state just doesn't have the numbers to be able to trace the people who are infected. There's also a report in The Age this morning suggesting that the number of defibrillators, there were thousands of them that were going to be ordered, but then because Victoria started flattening the curve, that order was then put on hold. I mean, how alarming is that for you, if it's true?
Well, I know that contact tracing in Victoria has become a complete schmozzle and that they are failing to keep up with the spread of this virus. Now, why on earth they didn't call in the ADF earlier to assist with the tracing of this virus is beyond me. I don't know what the Victorian... I have to assume, aside from preferences for union labour, particularly security guards with the hotel quarantine, I have no idea what this government's problem is with using the ADF. It must be ideological because we are failing to contact trace appropriately here in Victoria. We've heard this time and time again. They've got to get help in from around the country, particularly from the Commonwealth. I know that South Australia has sent a team. I believe Queensland has sent one too. Look, we're the laughing stock of the country. We're the pariahs of the nation. We're locked out of the rest of the nation because, for whatever reason, this government can't do contact tracing and a whole bunch of other tasks that every other state seems to have been able to do quite well.